All right, so a couple things today. We're going to talk about big overarching concepts and definitely a really positive message for what we're doing today. Number one, I was just kind of reading different news outlets, and one of the stats that came out was case counts. And we've talked about before how the goalposts have moved. Originally, it was, quote, 15 days to slow the spread. That was the shutdown. And now 4.5 months later, and the main metrics were deaths and health and hospitalizations, and now it's case counts, which is crazy because if you, let's say for example, you got into the emergency room and you tested, you went in for a broken arm or something and you tested positive, they're going to test you again and you're positive again, and then you're going to come back a few days later and you're going to be negative, and then they're going to test you a few days after that because they need a second test and you're negative. Well, that actually is 4 tests. It will be 4 tests, 2 positive case counts, and a 50% positivity rate. So when you look at the way that stats are collected, I mean, it's designed for the numbers to be as high and as bad as possible. So they don't sit here and say, well, those 4 tests are one individual. We're only going to count it as one, and we're going to go by the last one. No, it doesn't work that way. You have some really dumb people running it, but the statisticians are not the ones reporting it. The reason that's important is because the overall case counts are going down. Last week, I think was the high, and we've actually retreated from that. So with all the numbers skewed to be as high and as bad as possible, we're going down. And so what we want to do is we want to expect that the numbers that we see and what happens with the stock reflect that. And the good news is we did. So we'll talk about some stocks that I noticed today. First of all, the first stock has nothing to do with that. Zovio, which is my old employer, they own Ashford University. And Ashford University, they actually just sold and divested from, and they sold to the University of Phoenix, or not University of Phoenix, the University of Arizona, as in the Wildcats, as in the Pac-10 or Pac-12 conference. And they're going to be the University of Arizona's global campus. And what's weird is it was like a 7-year deal or a 15-year deal. There's some arrangement they have there. So it's not like a permanent sale, but they're doing something. So I'm not sure if they're licensing it out or what have you. So I need to figure out, all right, when I list my diploma, do I list it from Ashford or do I list it as the University of Arizona? And I was asking my wife about that last night, and she didn't know either. So I have an email to send out. We'll figure out. I got to email some of the people at my old company. We'll figure out what the deal is with that. Anyway, with that being said, their stock went from 350 to 6, so it almost doubled. And you would have thought of all the stocks that I own, I would have some side little bet on the old company, and I didn't. I don't know why. I had it when it was an IPO, and it made me a lot of money, so that was really nice. And that was when the stock was up at $24 to $30 a share. I think it even got up to $42 a share at one point. But anyway, that was kind of cool for them, and just wanted to share that. But anyway, going back to what we talked about before, we want to see the service industry go up if the cases are going down. So we do see that. We see Red Robin, which ironically only has 6,000 people own it, which is really crazy because some of the other stocks have a lot larger ownership bid. So with that being said, Red Robin went up 7% today. And for the week, it's up 4%. So overall, again, cases going down, we see the Red Robin going up. Ikagi, this one's a little bit different because it's a European airline group, so it doesn't really follow necessarily the U.S. case count, but that went up 7% today, so that was nice as well. PVAC, which is an oil company, they do exploration, development, and production of crude oil, so everything pretty much but transportation and refinement. And they went up 10% today. So that's really, really good. This is a really good investment. I got it at $4, and we're almost tripling our return on that at this point. So it's nice to see that. XAN, which is the dog in the portfolio only because they do commercial real estate. Believe it or not, they went up 6% today. So if they're going up, that's actually a really good sign. I mean, it's like if your worst free throw shooter hits 2 clutch free throws, your team's probably going to win some games. So that's kind of the way that I look at that one. RHP, which is Ryman Hospitality Properties. I think I've owned it at one point for a little bit, maybe a little bit, but they do casinos, if I remember right. They do destination hotels and resort markets. It's kind of high-end hotels. They do the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, they basically do a lot of things that are going to get a ton of traffic. And so this one was started at 30, got up to 30, almost 33, so it went up 6% today. U.S. Foods, and they basically are a big food distributor, a big contract with the U.S. military for naval or U.S. military commissaries. 78% buy. I'm surprised only 18,000 people own it. I don't own it, so who am I to argue with that? But they went up 8% today. And Service Properties Trust, they do casinos, if I remember. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Hotels and travel centers throughout the U.S., Ontario, Canada, and Puerto Rico. So I'm not sure what they do, if they're just kind of like, I mean, they're going to do hotels. They're probably going to do like, if they're net lease, they're probably going to do like Loves or something like that. But look at that. It went up 10% today. So overall, we see some trends, and I'm not cherry picking. I actually tried to look at the highest gainers and losers. There really weren't much of a loser, if any, on them. If they were small amounts. I mean, if we look over here, let's go to the very top. 0.5%, 1%, 1%, 2%, 0.8, etc. I mean, it's really low. Anyway, so that being said, what else do we have here? I forgot to, and I didn't even update these. Let's see what my messages are. All right, Two Harbors. All right, so I got a dividend of $61. That's cool. It just goes to the cash fund, but I'm already using margin, so it pays back some of the margin. Velocity, it looks like we had a limit order for that, so let's take a look at Velocity. All right, so it looks like this order came through at 360. So we'll add that in later on. I'll make a point of doing that. We're not going to do it on the video. I'm not going to bore you with that. It's a good sign. It's a mortgage finance, and I'm going to be refining my mortgage next month because the rates are so freaking low, and I'm sure a lot of other people are doing the same. But the only thing holding that back right now is that when a lot of the banks did a 3-month deferral in, April, May, and June, which I took advantage of and put money in the Robinhood account, they were listed as deferral, and I guess the Fannie and Freddie Mac guidelines say you have to make 3 payments after the deferral before they can refi. So everybody else is kind of probably in the same boat as I am, is just waiting to get that second payment so they can start the process, and the third payment before they can close. So I expect this one to go up probably in the next, 4 to 8 weeks roughly, maybe a little bit more because there's lag time on public company reporting. So with that being said, it's a 4% upside, or 4 times upside, which I think is really, really huge. All right, so we'll touch base on that a little bit later. Let's see, pre-market, we're not really it's too early because they're still aftermarket numbers. These are all numbers from today. One thing I did read about is Argentina, them striking a deal with their creditors. It's not a direct company bailout or anything, but it's basically, Argentina's a mess. Like, they are your crazy uncle who you give them $100 and they basically spend it on really cheap beer and lottery tickets. They're horrible the way they run that country. And it's like, honestly, if you're going to run a country's finances, you look at what Argentina does, do the exact opposite, and you'll probably do a great job. So they're restructuring $65 billion in debt, and it's probably just maturing debt. So there'll probably be more of that news coming up when that maturity date comes up. But the big news, the big kind of update is that things are going up in a nice direction. Basically, when you're looking at the bottom of the market and it's been stagnant, you don't move unless there's a reason to move, and unless there's some fundamental that changed, which did not. But you want to be one of the wise ones that maintains that low cost basis when everybody else is worrying and panicking. And, we have an election coming up, and, you have politicians, governors, school boards preening to try to get headlines to feel like, well, we're doing something, even though the something is really wrong. It's like, okay, I have cancer. Well, let's just inundate you with a ridiculous amount of radiation and we'll kill the cancer. Well, you'll kill the cancer, but you're also going to kill the patient as well. So sometimes doing something is not the best idea at all. And in risk management, there's a term for that. It's called an iatrogenic illness, meaning that it's doctor created. In other words, if you didn't go see the doctor and the doctor didn't do whatever he did to you, you wouldn't have had the problem to begin with. It's the equivalent of leaving a sponge inside you when you have surgery. So with that being said, we're good where we're at right now. DraftKings is down 3%. We didn't really talk about them today, but that's fine. Once we get football season starting in earnest, you're going to see those numbers shoot up because that's the bulk of their business. Beyond that, Kagi is this was down like 20%. It's down 3%. We're almost back in the black again. I might sell this and just free up some money. We'll see. PBF I bought recently. That's basically a petroleum company, and they're basically broke even. I mean, it's 2 cents a share under what I bought it for. So that's good on that one. I just bought it, so I'm not selling that one. We're going to let that one ride a little bit. Two Harbors, which is a REIT. Again, that's up 5%, so we're good. I could sell that one, but I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm just thinking I shouldn't do that. VVI was down like 20 some odd percent. Now it's at 10, so that's moving in the right direction. And beyond that, I think we're really good. So overall, and this doesn't account for the Velocity purchase, we're still on pace for about 310. Some of it's a longer term play, some of it's a shorter term play. But what I would say is this is right now, if you have a good cost basis on your portfolio, ride with it because you're going to be one of the smart people later on. If you don't have it yet, it's so early to get in. I mean, there's so much massive upside. You got to do it. If you don't have a Robinhood account, in the video description, there's a link where you can basically sign up and get a free stock while you do it. There's also a link to this spreadsheet, so you can look in detail and play around with it. You can actually save it, keep it, make it better, call it yours, totally plagiarize. I don't really care. But it's a great tool to use just for visualization. And we haven't put together the July report yet down here because I haven't got the statement yet. But once we do that, we'll cover that in one of our episodes. But overall, I haven't really touched much of this because I'm happy with what we have, and there's not much of a reason to change. When we look at the upside, the main upside ones are Dave & Buster's, which I don't really feel like buying right now, and Norwegian Cruise Lines, which they have a ton of upside, but they're the first place that people shut down if there's an outbreak. So I'm not touching that. And as we get down to the ones that are 3 times upside, those are still good, but we have a cruise line. MFA has been static. Service Corporation I sold recently, and that's fine. They're good. And Texas Hospitality is oil, and I already have a good oil thing. So we're good to go on that. I will color the Velocity in green since we have that. But overall, we're pretty well covered for what we are looking for. So with that being said, stay the course, sign up for Robinhood, get your account, make sure you get invested. This will be one of the best chances to make money in your lifetime. So don't think it's too late, because it is definitely not too late. There's a ton of money to be had out there. But you have to be a very contrarian investor. If you go with everybody, you won't make a lot of money, and you tend to lose money whenever people do, and you'll make emotional decisions. But if you sit back, have some restraint, trust your judgment. And again, I don't trade during the day. I make decisions at night and let it ride the next day, because that's the best way to make sure your decisions are sound. You're going to be pulling numbers like this, where we have Crestwood Equity at basically tripling our money. PVAC, which is the oil company, almost tripling it. Redwood Trust, which is a REIT, almost tripling it. Let's see, Caesars Entertainment's almost doubled right now. And the next one up there would be Signet Jewelers, which is a mall jewelry store, which, again, it's weird. It has no buys, but it's done really, really good. So make sure you get those in. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website. It gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy, so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about.
And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.